Before we get started on today's episode, I'd like to introduce to you our Black owned Business of the Week, where we showcase quality Black owned businesses for you to support every week. This week's business is Soul Star Tea and Wellness, based out of Virginia Beach, where they have high quality artisan teas crafted using premium tea leaves, organic herbs, pure spices, dried fruit, and other natural ingredients. Available to you on their website to order, including two of my personal favorites, Sweet Mahogany Roast and Tropical Cider. If you're a tea lover, be sure to visit their site so you don't miss out.
Relationships present the opportunity to either propel us forward or set us back, depending on the quality of the partner that we choose. And it's with this perspective in mind that we should all be mindful of the individual contributions that we each present to a relationship. On this week's episode of the Infusion Breakdown Show, the Breakdown crew sat down among ourselves to discuss, why do men ask women what do they bring to the table? Let's see what we come up with.
So the question we have for today, why do men ask women what do they bring to the table? Comment below, let us know your opinion.
Right. So this question was actually a point of conversation I had with one of my friends. I don't remember who it was. Whoever it was, shout out to you for provoking the thought to get this episode in gear. And it's also a common thing that surfaces again and again on Twitter, which is, I guess, our public form of discourse for people in our age group, whether you give it any kind of gravity or not. I mean, it's just interesting to see what people are thinking and how they interact with each other, the ideas, from my perspective. And when it comes to men asking women what do they bring to the table, I almost always see it as a retort or as a response to, I guess, outlandish expectations on the woman's behalf. But it really, like I said, this question was interesting to me because it provoked further thought. And I've never asked this woman, I've never asked a woman that I was interested in this particular question, but I damn sure asked myself, is this something that you guys ask women? Like, I wouldn't imagine it's a mechanical interview type question, but it's not something that people normally ask, is it?
I don't know. I've never asked it, but I don't know if you don't think it's something people would normally ask. Well, men anyway, or people.
Not that I know of. That's my point. But I think I only see it when it comes to like online discourse and debates and people going back at each other and stuff and trying to prove points. But like I said, I've never asked a woman this, but I damn sure ask myself this. And I would also be concerned on a woman's behalf, a woman that I'm interested in.
Hold on. Wait, do you ask yourself what do women bring to the table, or what do you ask yourself what do the women I'm messing with right now brings to the table?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Like if it's a woman that I'm interested in, I mean that's something that I'm constantly evaluating. And on her side, she should constantly be evaluating me. I feel like it's just in your best interest. What does the other person bring to the table? And so, not as a man, not as a woman, but as a simple person, why would you not want to ask yourself, what does your potential partner bring to the table? And I think that this is based on three false narratives. So the idea of unconditional romantic love. Second, a woman's worth is predicated on her womanhood. And then third, money is the only meaningful contribution in this conversation. And what one brings to the table could be way more than that. I think that people get so much tunnel vision on this one particular part, being finances specifically, they neglect everything else. And that's what irritates a lot of people and say, why are you asking women this? So like, I was just thinking about things that stand out to me that could be valuable contributions to a relationship. And I was thinking like growth mindset, good communication skills, money management, peace, assets, good parenting, creativity, homemaking, domestic skills, networking, passion, other miscellaneous skills. Like those kinds of things are valuable contributions to a relationship. It's not just simply you just provide the money and that's it. I mean, honestly, if it was that simple, we'd probably be having a different discussion here. Money is important, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to downplay it. Like 41% of marriages end because of financial reasons, but there is more that goes into the construction of a realistic and healthy relationship, a long-lasting relationship, might I add, than just simply being able to fork over money. So those are my thoughts on that, and I'm curious on what you guys think on this particular topic.
Did you want to go first, Des?
Nah, I'll let you have it.
Of course you would. For me, I thought I looked at it two sides. The first side, I felt it was just men wondering what women could do for them rather than how they can complement each other in a relationship. And I think complementing each other means having similar values and similar mindsets, kind of similar to what you said, Brian. But I do think some guys think more along the lines of, can you cook? Can you clean? Will you only talk when I want you to talk? Shit like that. I don't know if you guys saw the interview with Cam Newton, but he had kind of had an interview when he talked about stuff like that. And then on the other side, I think is what you kind of was alluding to, Brian. I think there's men that are sick of being in a one-sided relationship where she doesn't add much value to your life other than her thinking she's a prize that has to be constantly earned even while in the relationship. And I think it's possible that men are just getting sick of that. And I think that's a little bit what you was alluding to. Really. But I've never asked anybody. I never asked anybody that. That's kind of interesting.
I didn't think so.
Yeah.
And I agree to an extent as far as what both of you are saying. As far as recent memory goes, I never asked a woman what they bring to the table, to their face per se. But I did give it a lot of thought today as we bounced the idea of the topic. And I come to a couple of things. As far as what I could think from like a societal standpoint and why we have that question, within our mind it has a bit to do with the objectification of women. I think we look at women more or less, like you said, I don't know if you alluded to it or you actually said it, but it's like they are the prize or things of that nature. We're looking at them as they are the trophy. They're glorified for sex and things of that nature rather than, the purity of what they are. And one reason why whether I would formally ask it or more or less informally in a way ask, is because as you begin to, dive deeper into dating and all these other aspects of life when it comes to like some form of a unionship, there's so many things that factor in, not just to your union, but it's future children. It's literally an investment at the end of the day. And one thing that, I've discovered about myself when it just comes to investing in itself is you don't invest in something that you don't thoroughly investigate. You have to have a thesis of why you're investing in it. And time is our most valuable asset. I know it's redundant. You hear it over and over again, but there's so much truth behind it. And I think you'll be doing yourself a great disservice by investing time without doing your background work, having a thesis and analysis. Why are you putting your time into this person? Are they genuine? Are they meeting your specific needs, not just on a physical level, but a spiritual and emotional level as well? And I think that because we're, at the end of the day, and to nobody's fault, but we're a capitalist society, we immediately think of the objectification. What can you do? What do you come with? Sure, you got to know if your woman got a good credit or not, what she can do, things that we factor in, like, can she make a house, home, and all those type of things. But it's like also comes down to like you're trying to I don't know if quantify is the correct term, but you're trying to quantify the value of that woman based off of what she is physically able to do for you and how she could benefit, rather than coming in as like a complete package, rather instead of growing to be the complete package together.
I like the analogy you made with investing. And this is something I actually thought about when I was preparing for this too. One of the best or most impactful statements on this podcast that I recall came from Dez. And this was something that I thought about as I was preparing, like I said. And Dez, you had said something along the lines of you value your time too much to spend on meaningless or pointless dating. I forget what episode that was, but it really struck a chord with me way back then, because I asked myself sometimes in hindsight, why was I entertaining this woman? Why was I entertaining this situationship when I saw that it wasn't going, when I saw that it was to my detriment? And ultimately, assuming that a man is growing and moving forward, like us, like I can only speak for people in our group, similar like-minded individuals, that we're growing and moving forward towards our goal and purpose, we accrue more value. and that's not something that's it's not necessarily objective, but it's subjective. But you do accrue moral value, and that's also known as having your shit together. I think we can all agree that people tend to like other people who have their shit together, whether or not they have their shit together themselves. But with that being said, like what you said about the investment, the more that means you have more to contribute, but on the flip side, you also have more to lose. So it becomes more and more important to you because we damn near 30. I mean, we're still young, but we're not that young. So things like this become more and more important as we continue to get to this level and get closer to our objective, like I just said. And this is why I think it's so important to ask yourself, is X going to help me create the life that I want to build? And the answer is a lot clearer to us than what you think. Like if your ideal life, you know, you want to have 3 kids and you want to live somewhere else, and she has no interest in having children, what is the point? Like, what is the point of you entertaining that? Because you know that ultimately what's going to happen is you're going to think you're going to change her mind. She's going to become resentful about that. Or the flip side, you're going to back down and say that, okay, you don't want kids, but you're going to be resentful of yourself for not actually going for what you want and trying to build that life and thinking about what could have been had you pursued it elsewhere and actually, I guess, served yourself. But that's what I really think about, because it, just from my personal standpoint, I'm really focused on building a future for my future family. And so I have a specific vision for what I want. And for, let's say, if you just want to break it down to the financial part, like I said, one of the criteria that could be a contribution to a relationship is money management. So I'm comfortable with understanding that, okay, I'm in the tech field, I'm very ambitious, I'm going to continue to earn, and it's just going to keep going up over time. So it makes no sense for me as somebody trying to amass wealth for my children and then future generations if I'm going to be with somebody who has poor money management habits and they're going to spend every damn thing I save up. It makes no sense. That's counterproductive. And like a lot of people think that the idea of generational wealth is sexy. They'll use it as like a buzzword, but they don't actually know what goes into the accrual of generational wealth. They don't understand how hard it is. Even like the actual asset itself, money, it does not translate through generations as well as most people think. Like I think most millionaires are quote unquote self-made, as in they did not inherit the wealth. Because let's say if you have Josh, you have $1 billion, and let's say when you pass on, God forbid, but you have 5 kids. Okay, well, out of those 5, maybe one of them is good with managing money. So what happens to the rest of the money for the other children, because it's probably split up. And then so after that, they still have to pass down the mindset. Like the money, that part is easy. You can build up money and pass that down. But what's harder to do is to pass the mindset. And so what I'm looking for, and somebody I would imagine you guys are looking for, is somebody who can help nurture the mindset and help you build that vision out, rather than somebody to just be like just an object that you have with you that just fulfills like the sexual and the physical side of things. That just looks good and everybody's like, oh damn, she's bad. Like Des got a badass wife. But is because to actually attain generational wealth, it takes more than that one person. It's a 2-person job. And I think when you start to take yourself more seriously, you start to take dating more seriously, because ultimately, like Des said, this is the biggest investment in your life. It could either be, well, after yourself, I believe first and foremost, you're the best investment, but outside of yourself, your family, because it could either be conducive or counterproductive to whatever you want. It could make or break you. Like I can't stress that enough. And I like just learning a lot from Des in particular on this particular subject, and then seeing it firsthand with other people. It's like, this is really something that we have the benefit of, because like we still are young and we're in the process of still forming and building our own futures out. That if we harness this and other people who are similar to us take advantage of that, you can really set yourself up. But it's something you have to be very conscious and deliberate about. Nobody succeeds on accident.
Thanks. Yeah, everything you said was spot on. I think the most important thing that I applied to like this whole realm of like personal development and just life advancement in itself is, it's actually like a ode to Star Wars. Like one of the most common things we hear is hope. Rebellions are built off of hope. We can't hope someone gets their shit together. We can't hope we see the green grass one day. We can't hope. Like, rebellions are good in a sense if we want to be fanboys and things of that nature, but they do nothing more than brute instability. And as much as we may love a good story about, you know, rebellions and, you know, it being on the you know, the right side of history, fact of the matter is like when we think of our family and our last names and things like that, we're thinking of it in a sense of like an empire, generational wealth. We're thinking about almost like how the czars were, where, you know, power is passed down from generation to generations. We think of that power as money. We want money passed down from, you know, generation to generation, but that's not built off of hope. That's built off of deliberate action, order, discipline, and things of that nature. And so it's like imperative that the person you're investing your time in, you know, it has those same ideals in mind, because the most damage you can do for yourself is trying to rewrite a chapter of your life that is already closed. Because remember, everything we do, it's permanent. It's written in ink. So you keep trying to go back and crossing out maybe a word that you misspelled, or maybe a sentence that didn't just flow right. But that story has already been written. That cake has already been baked. Those lessons have been learned, but we keep going back trying to, whether it be with the same people or someone that has similar attributes than maybe your ex or whatever it may be, and you're just trying to make that work. But at the same time, you're devaluing yourself. You're not learning anything new. You're not putting forth the maximum effort to better your situation, you know, not just as a woman, but as a man as well. So, you know, it is important to ask yourself whether you are ballsy enough to say, what the fuck do you bring to the table? But it's a requirement. Like, you don't want to sit here and let love blindly lead you down a path of suffering. There has to be order. There has to be discipline, because as we said, you know, on the last episode or 2 episodes ago, you know, life evolves in decades. What you spend your time doing right now is going to set up the next decade of your life, or the first 5 years of that decade. Or if you're, you know, fruitful enough, it sets up the whole 10 years and 10 years after that. So, you know, you always have to be mindful. Like, can your 30s afford a divorce in your 20s? Like, I don't think it can. You don't want to spend your 30s suffering because you got married out of high school, or, you know, you got married in your early 20s when you hadn't experienced life yet, and you see all the flaws in someone, like the way, you know, Brian is mentioning, like bad credit or things of that nature. Like, it's a true commitment that is going to be with you, you know, the same way people talk about felonies. It's on your record for the rest of your life. Marriage, divorce, that's not only on your record, but it's on your conscience for the rest of your life.
You guys mentioned the person in a relationship that stays there because of hope of change. Why do you think that person stays? Is it just because, like, the hope of things change?
Oh, life is Disney-fied. Everyone loves a good story, that, like, a hopeless romantic story. Everyone loves, like, you know, I stayed committed, I stayed down, and everything, you know, eventually worked out the way it was supposed to.
How much of it is like they don't want to be alone though?
I mean that's part of it too.
That breeds that mindset.
Wait, say that again. You what? Say that again.
That breeds, so I mean, just the basic human desire to not be alone. It opens up the door for the other. Like, so when you see those narratives spun into, whether it be a Disney movie or whether it be your favorite rapper and his wife who held him down in jail or something like that. Like, you see these stories. I'm telling you, like, people will objectify and idealize celebrity relationships to the nth degree, and it pisses me off so much, because we don't know anything about it. I mean, we see, like, on the surface, but I know there's so much more behind it, so I don't pay any credence to those ideas or to consider them as a goal. I know what I want. I know what Brian's goal is. So when you have that, like I said, one creates the desire to not be lonely, and then you have those kinds of idealizations. like you see those kinds of things, it fits what you're looking for, and you start to believe this is the way things should be. And like I said before, a long time ago, the human mind is powerful. We can convince ourselves of anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Big facts.
When I said earlier, I was expecting Josh you to ask me about this when I said that unconditional romantic love does not exist. What are you guys' thoughts on that? And I'll explain what I mean by that. I think all relationships are transactional. There's something provided from one individual to another. There's something that attracts you to them, whether it be okay, the physical part, that's a given. I can only speak for myself. The physical part, that's what opens the door to be willing to get to know somebody on an intimate level. But there's other things, and then once those things that attracted you to them so much start to go away. Let's say you really liked how she was really supportive, she was outgoing, she was ambitious, and she had all of these good characteristics, and you just see that shit start to deteriorate one by one by one. After those things that attracted you to her are gone, your interest is gone too. And the same thing for women and men. Those things, like, it might take a while, but I really do feel like that's the death of a relationship. Like, those things that you thought were once desirable about the individual, once they begin to dissipate, if they do, then that's pretty much the death blow. Because at that point, you failed your obligation. Because I think a lot of people forget that that's like a relationship. You have an obligation. So I'll open the floor to you guys.
You thought I would question you about that?
Yeah, that I said the unconditional love does not exist.
No,
in the romantic sense.
No, I agree with you. It's interesting you thought I would.
No, well, I didn't think that you would disagree per se, but a point of discussion. I thought that was something that would require an explanation rather.
Oh, okay. I was like, really? You thought I would just?
Thought you had him.
Josh just like, all right, cool. What is the most significant contribution that a woman can bring to a relationship in you guys' mind? And it doesn't have to be exactly one, but like something that's non-traditional. Because traditional, like I said, we typically think about the money part of it. What's something that is very important that a woman can contribute to a relationship from your perspective?
What you think, Josh?
Well, mine was kind of a mixture. I was gonna say companionship, like a shoulder to cry on, somebody to talk to, maybe a comedy partner.
Emotional connection.
Empathizer.
Yeah.
For me, I don't think there's just one thing. I think it'll be a culmination of things, but I guess you could say like where I'm at in life, it would be the like the nurturing aspect, like the ability to come into an environment and allow it to have fertile ground for ideas and life to grow. I think that's the most important part, because life creates life at the end of the day. And, I don't mean nurturing in the sense of just like motherly. I mean nurturing in the sense of like life itself. Like you're allowing, in that nurturing aspect, spiritual ideas to grow, emotional connections to evolve, even business aspirations to be bounced off the walls and things of that nature, because we are our biggest doubters at the end of the day. Like I don't need a sympathizer, because I know how to sympathize with myself. I know how to empathize with myself. I know very well how to, I have my own checks and balances to make sure that I'm good and I'm on the right path. So it will be more or less that second brain, that brain that I can't tap into, that can, be there to, receive these ideas that I'm bouncing off of and provide feedback, and for, essentially for me to do the same. Like I don't think it would be 100% contingent on like gender roles and what you can do that I can't do. It's just more or less how can we multiply what we're already good at to where the relationship is just in a like a cosmic place, like euphoric.
Solid answer. I was thinking my top two, the first two that come to mind were peace. I don't think that requires further explanation. Like there's enough turmoil in the world that I don't need more of it in a relationship. I don't at all. I have no desire for that. And then I would say the other one was a growth mindset. So regardless of where an individual is at in life, if they have a growth mindset, they will not be content with just the bare minimum, just being average. And so as me, with somebody, I consider myself extremely ambitious, and I have a pretty clear vision of what I want to be in life, where I want to be, what I want my life to look like. I need someone who is going to help build that. This is bigger than me. And for somebody to stagnate, that's ultimately setting yourself up to outgrow the individual. I mean, and it's terrible. We understand that people do outgrow each other, but it doesn't make it any less hard. That it doesn't make it easier when you actually experience it, because that could be extremely painful. Not because of anything they've necessarily done, but the fact that you spent the amount of time that you did hoping that the individual would get their stuff together and be able to get on the same page, and it doesn't happen. Like you don't get years back, and you may have known, you may have not, but I think that's extremely scary. So those are probably my top two. I think the women that are watching this are going to be, maybe they'd be shocked that we didn't list off like in our top ones domestic skills or anything like that, just because like the perception of what men actually prioritize and what men actually prioritize, I feel like are two different things. Would you guys agree with that?
You think by women? You think so?
Yeah, I've said before, I feel like there's a huge disconnect between men and women, where men don't know what women want and women don't know what men want.
Yeah, but I mean that just boils down to basic communication.
Yeah,
And we're not good at that.
at all. That's why I said, well, that wasn't in my top two, but like I guess that's encompassed by the growth mindset, because if she's not a good communicator, she's gonna do what it takes to become one.
Mm-hmm.
But exactly, like communication, that's one of the biggest ones. And a lot of people think that, as we stated before, it's not just opening your mouth and making sounds. It's like, how effective are you with the actual utilization of said sounds? Are you making it to where you're actually trying to convey the idea and gain understanding of the other person, or are you trying to humiliate them or constantly win battles in a combative fashion? It's like there's so much more than just speaking, the actual action of it to make communication effective. I mean, we have a whole episode on it, like I said.
Yeah. My question you guys kind of answered. I was gonna ask, has a woman ever asked you guys this question, like what you bring to the table?
But no. I have had a conversation with a woman that I'm friends with, and she broke it down into essentially 3 categories that any one individual can have in a relationship. So it was like the emotional side of things, the financial side of things, and then the physical, which encompasses like the sexual part. And I think that's a pretty solid base. Do I think it's an oversimplification? Yes. But I think, like I said, in terms of establishing a base for having those kind of evaluations in your head to yourself, yeah. And so I have had that kind of conversation. It wasn't necessarily about, I was never asked in a way to where I had to submit my resume and say, I've done X, Y, and Z, I can do. No. Like I said, it's a very mechanical conversation. You don't, what the discourse you see online and then you see in real life situations are very different. That's why I said it's interesting, but it's not always an exact mirror to the real world scenarios. I think it really plays into the idea of individual versus hive mentality. We behave and think very differently when in the presence of other individuals. And Josh, you're a sociologist, so you know that.
Yeah. You would agree, Des?
Yeah. Yeah.
No woman has asked you that though?
Hell no.
What would you say?
I bring the table.
I am the table.
Have a seat.
Drag a whole t-
No, Dr. Umar, I beg your pardon.
Yeah, I didn't have anything else though. You have any questions? Any more questions?
No, this is great. You guys have answered everything that I had.
Okay. As far as the recommendation of the week, I believe Brian's gonna give it this week, right?
Yep. So, per a previous recommendation, Des recommended. It was The Four Agreements, a wonderful book. I picked the book up. I listened to it. You can get an audiobook. It's super short. It's like 2.5 hours, but it is so dense with gems. And I'd encourage you as you read it, don't rush through it. Take time to actually digest it and understand the concepts that are being illustrated by the author in that book. So I just want to take a second and highlight that as the recommendation of the week. So this is your second chance to get yourself a copy of that book, listen to it, and it's a game changer. I'll just put it that way and let you find it for yourself.
Nice. All right. If you guys liked the episode, don't forget to hit the like button. I'm gonna see you guys next week. Peace.
But while you're here, be sure to check out other great content from the Breakdown crew, including previous episodes of the podcast, Joshua vs. Movies, Joshua vs. Music, and of course, haven't forgotten about my plant lovers, Feel the Love. Just check out this begonia.